What is good, guys? The name back with our next build. 10 div challenge, right? You know, the whole idea, the Project Apothecary that we're doing here. Get a nice efficient build that can make me an apothecary under 10 div for the character. You know, we're going to pour into the strategy, but the character's under 10 div. This time I bring you a Wave of Conviction Ignite Elementalist. Uh, it's a really standard build. It's nothing like I'm not getting too crazy or creative with anything on this one, but I think overall it's just worth highlighting how efficient this character really is at such a low price point, right? Through leveraging things like Cloak of Flame for its defenses, leveraging the fact that Shaper of Flames as an offensive node is just extremely broken. I just feel like this is a very good character for farming, and so then I was like, what do I want to do with it? Well, I hadn't done crop rotation yet, and crop rotation harvest in general, the name of the game is explosions and killing things quickly, efficiently, because it's pretty hard to actually get tanky enough against these guys. But this character actually does it pretty decently, even is well geared against Eater Altar so that you can continue to do it. And man, are the explosions satisfying, right? That's the biggest thing, is that when you're working on things that scale off of pack size, explosions are the name of the game. You can do all the damage that you want, but sometimes it's just about the amount of coverage that you get. That's why you see skills like Tornado Shot and Lightning Arrow is so popular, even if like their raw single target might not always be the most impressive thing in the world. It's because their coverage is just nuts. And this is another one of those cases. We don't have insane single target or anything. It's enough to take care of harvest bosses with no problem. But the real specialty is that when we spawn the harvest plot, or you see the expedition as well, we kill a couple enemies and don't worry, the game's not freaking out. You'll stutter a little bit, but it is everything, right? And it's all gone. You just see loot on the screen, which in crop rotation and in the new Oppenheimer Expedition era also just feels incredible. We love the way that it feels. We love the way that it looks too, is the bigger thing. That's actually like one of the reasons I picked Wave of Conviction is that I got to run Herald of Ash, which means I can add MTX to make my explosions look prettier. I'm using Despair, Herald of Ash in the footage. Some other ones that I recommend if you don't own it and you're curious, I think Transcendence looks pretty good, but it is really eye cancer. Same for Celestial. There's a handful of good Herald of Ash effects. Mess around with it, get the screen feeling good, or maybe take them off, right? Maybe invisibles for you because you don't really want to blot your eyes out with the gameplay. But for me, the explosions everywhere is what makes PoE, and so that's a large part of what I did for making this character feel incredible. It also gives me good feedback. There's moments where I'm literally running along the map and I see off the side of my screen an explosion chain that started half a screen back, right? Or more. I think one time it was actually a full screen away from me where it was just boop, 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 following me around. And that makes clearing these maps so comfy as you start to really load pack size into them, right? Just kill one thing and everything's gone. It's so nice. That's the whole dream though. That's the idea that I went for. Get good enough single target to actually function, be able to survive most encounters in Harvest and Expedition. There's a couple things that still take me out back, but that's just the way it is when your character is on this like low of a budget, right? There are some things that you will die to, and you just need to know how to play against that. But the things that you don't die to, they all just explode, and it's beautiful, right? And so now, I think that covers enough introduction. Let's get into talking about the character itself and how we're gonna put this together, right? How are we gonna get you guys this loot, make this money? All right, so let's talk about the character very quickly. We have our favorite reroll enjoyer here. That's me. It's actually just my IV character, but you see 95 is a pretty good level for this character, honestly. Felt a little overkill. And then so let's talk about the gear a little bit. Just a quick shell, because this is an Ignite Elementalist shell. You'll find that there's a lot of builds that build very similar to this gearing pattern, right? And then the only difference is how much money you spend going harder. So defensively, the specialty is, you see this bubble around me, it's our Primal Aegis from Ashen of Elements, which gives us a lot of elemental protection, like a lot. So layering that with Sapples, our elemental damage is pretty much taken care of on its own. Now we just need to worry about fizz damage, and that's where Cloak of the Flame comes in. 40 bit and converted. over to fire, which then gets mitigated by our shield and ridiculous fire resistance at 79. And we are feeling pretty comfortable for the most part. There are still things that destroy us, but it's usually not fist damage. It's actually chaos damage based on my chaos res, right? We just don't have chaos res on as much of the gear as I would have liked. Like, I would have liked to spend more money on these gloves to focus for like 30 chaos res, right? But it's hard to fit in chaos res when you have this many uniques that are all viable for your build, which is another reason I actually like Death Rush, right? It's a really good damage unique and for speed, but it also gives me a lot of chaos res. That's the name of the game. Damage wise, I mean, +2 chest, pretty standard. Put your wave in a 6 link and go crazy. Ignite Prolif might not be the best 6th link, but like it worked and I didn't want to think too hard. So that's what the colors of my chest gave me, so we ran with it, right? But damage wise, 6 link wave of conviction and a +2 chest always feels great. Add in an Eye of Malice for increased res shred when paired with Whispers of Doom and our double curse setup using Flam and Elite Weakness. Then we have our auras provide, malevolence as well as Herald of Ash and Herald of Purity. You can actually also use Hatred for damage. And I was doing that in an initial version of testing for this character instead of Haste, but I determined that the cast speed in particular of Haste was more valuable, because even though cast speed does not scale your damage directly, the skill Wave of Conviction without cast speed investment does feel really, really bad to cast with. So that's an option that I made there. And then for the actual things that make this character look nuts, what about those explosions that we saw? Obliteration is a large part of that, right? We owe it to Obliteration plus Herald of Ash plus Legacy of Fury and the Fire Mastery for burning enemies explode. We combine all of these pieces together to just kill a couple enemies, and I mean, you saw it, right? Like you saw how good it looked, right? So that's the whole flow. Then we use our rings on. There are a lot of good Ignite rings, right? Polaric Devastation is my favorite. The Replica Emberwake, that is incredible DPS at the cost of ridiculously faster Ignite, so you have to reapply them more often. There's, actual Emberwake for slower ignites that you can stack up, which has its use cases for certain things, like all these different ways to layer damage on. But my second ring of choice is Death Rush because I'm a mapper. It was a harvest farmer. Adrenaline's going to be active. It's going to feel great when it's active. It's going to do a lot of damage when it's active, and we like that. Other gearing things that we should talk about here. This is an EB character because that's the easy way to support the blessing, and we can afford the blessing, right? Because of a life cost mastery that we take on the tree. And then to make sure that we can sustain our ES, I get a belt that I can craft regen energy shield per second while a rare or unique enemy is nearby. This is a very important craft just to make sure that you don't find yourself out of mana, or out of energy shield rather, when you need it. This costs 59 energy shield per cast. This is taking 330. Like this is 19 and it's triggering 3 skills. You're going to run out of energy shield very quickly without this in key moments when it will matter. So make sure you take that extra investment. Then get yourself some Prolif and spread some Prolif and exposure gloves. These are very nice, very efficient. Good to get an amulet, +1 dot multi, all you really need. Then you get some decks, whether it be implicit or explicit. And this life roll was hot, but not necessary. And then crushing on Obliteration if you're really feeling bad, right? I also do have another weapon, a real weapon, if you will, for in case I was going to do any single target encounters. This is a full weapon, by the way. It's not actually 5 modded. Fizz, Cold, Lightning, Fire Down Multi, and you can switch out Haste for Hatred to really you leverage the full power of this scepter that I had in particular. But this is a very good damage scepter in case I needed to do real single target damage. Didn't really happen that often, but just in case it ever came up, that was my plan. There was only one harvest boss one rare, my bad, not even a harvest boss. There was a really bad rare that I had to fight, that I had to do that on. So let's talk about the tree, right? Ascendancy pathing is pretty standard. Heart of Destruction, my bad, for convergence. Then you get Shaper of Flames, Bastion of Elements. Tree pathing looks really familiar. Get EO, get damage nodes, get double curse, path around, take Dex notable because Dex is so hard to get on this build. And then, yeah, like it's pretty normal pathing, nothing crazy here. I take a lot of fire masteries. That's just like one thing of my version. I take a lot of fire masteries just because we need pretty much all of them realistically. The regen one, it could be cut, but the recovery feels so good. You'll also notice I have a little bit of life reserve for the same reason. I run a vitality on my life because arrogance gives it aura effect, which is the regen stronger, and I value the regen it provides me over how much life I lost in the process, about 450 or so. I value that way higher. Suppression lucky just to cope a little bit, right? Like the usual things around the tree. Do not skip this small passive. It's not an accident. You needed to fit your reservations in. It's not an accident. All right. Quick stuff about the PLB itself now. Again, you can see the tree. Everything's in here. It's configured properly, right? You just literally pull it down and use it as is. You can see our gem setups and whatnot. A couple things that I want to talk about while I'm looking at this, though, because you'll see it more in there, is tattoos. Just because there are a couple viable tattoos that I like for this build. I think the percent life tattoo is very good, especially if you path over to if you path down to this jewel and get like a bunch of life tattoos right here. Alternatively, defense tattoos, if you want to go to term grace in a more tankier style of the build, also great. There's a Herald buff effect tattoo. I believe it's on strength. There's also my personal one of my personal favorites, the explode tattoo. You have a lot of strength nodes if you want to get some explode tattoos, or if you can figure out how to fix your strength, through like a lethal pride, for example, in the center here, I would probably tattoo the strength nodes to life regen because I really value recovery on a character like this. Even though we have 500 already, I just really value recovery, and so that's like a personal thing that I'm a huge fan of. Onslaught here, right? Onslaught tattoo, when you can fix your decks, is gonna go crazy. There's all sorts of things like that that you can do around the tree to optimize the tattoos. It's unfortunate that the int tattoos are not too great for us, but it is what it is. You can always get reduced curse effect, or you can just turn them into like chaos or chaos res, defenses, or life, or aura effect, right? All sorts of things, ways that you can optimize the character from there. But you'll see a take on optimizing the character in the description. Just my POB for turning this into a Vortex Ignite character, because that's the place that I prefer. You can also turn this character into Ethereal Knives, EK, right? EK Ignite feels good. I just don't like investing in all the proj nonsense on an Ignite character. I don't love forcing proj in places that I don't need to, and I just love the way that Vortex plays and it's so smooth. But yeah, this character goes crazy. This is the great of it character. You saw it go. You saw it work, right? You saw it work, and it's very very within the budget. It's like a set. I think it was like 7.5 div or something. Like this was not a hard character to put together at all. If you want a good juicy mapper with a very strong core, like a very strong core, this is the character for you. You can even play it as DD, as you've probably seen other very popular streamers do, just to get even stronger overall on lower gear. Like overall, I love how consistent this character felt. Very highly rated. Very good for the strategy that I picked, especially leaning into my fire res for conversions to make sure that I didn't mess myself up with eater altars while lowering my cold and lightning resistance, right? Like all together, just very good character that I got my second apothecary with. Got some, we're working on the next character and whatnot already over on the stream. You can check me out. I'm live most of the time. I still live like early to mid afternoon time, Central Standard Time. And we'll be posting more here. If you liked this video, please drop me a like. It just helps a lot, right? Even let me know what you liked about it. If you have any suggestions about how to convert better or places I could have done the investment better, let me know. Or if there's information that you want to hear more about in some of these, let me know there as well, right? Feel free to hit me with the subscribe. It helps a lot. Plus, you'll get to see when we do the remaining builds for this project that I'm working on, as well as any future stuff that I've got coming up, which I've got some stuff in the works for you guys, right? Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.